Hi everyone, and welcome back. Today we are going to be working on how to apply face makeup, so that's concealer, foundation, powder, and everything that comes after that. Since we've already learned how to do everything on our eyes, it's time for the rest. So this hopefully won't be too long of a video, but we'll see what happens. Just a really quick thing that I wanted to mention for the parents of younger students. This is a lot of makeup, obviously, for the stage. If you don't want to put all of this makeup on your young child because their face is already perfect to begin with, it is totally fine to just go in with a BB cream or like a tinted moisturizer. You can make your own by just taking a little bit of foundation or concealer on the back of your hand and then some moisturizer. Mix it all together and then just rub it all over the face. And then maybe take a little bit of powder and their base is good to go. And then you can just skip ahead to when I talk about the blush, because they don't need the foundation, they don't need all that concealer, they don't need all that extra stuff. If you are a parent of a younger student, go ahead and do the CC cream or tinted moisturizer, whatever you want to do, and then skip on ahead to when I talk about blush. So for everybody else who would like to apply a full face of makeup, let's get started with our first step. So like I said in my previous video, you can either start with your eyes and do those fully, so that you don't have to worry about stuff falling all under your cheeks and then having to wipe it away and try to fix your foundation, or you can start with your foundation and then move on to your eyes. It's totally personal preference, up to you. Like I said, I like to start with my face, but that's just me. So as you can see, I have absolutely nothing on my face right now. I have just washed it and moisturized it and let everything sink into my skin. And now I am ready to get started. So the first step after washing and moisturizing is primer. I definitely think that primer is important, especially when doing stage makeup, because we need it to last all the way through, a whole bunch of sweat, a bunch of dances, and quite a few hours from start to finish. So I'm going to start with my primer. They have lots of different ones to choose from at the drugstore or high-end. Just choose the one that works best for your skin. My skin is very dry, so I am choosing one that is hydrating. And it's like a liquidy serum, but you choose what you need. If you have very oily skin, you'll probably want a mattifying oil controlling one. If you have a lot of pores through your nose and cheek area, you'll want something that's pore filling. Or if you're like me, you'll want something hydrating if you're very, very dry. So I'm just starting with that. So primer is now on, and I've given it a couple minutes just to soak into my skin and get itself working. Next step is going to be foundation. I am going to choose this e.l.f. foundation because it's like $6 and it's actually really good. I use this as my usual foundation, so I like it. So I am using a sponge to apply my foundation because I like to do that, and I also like that sponges are, I can use it for many different reasons, so I don't need to pack 1.5 million brushes to take with me to wherever. And I've got it just pumped onto there, and I am going, ooh, and I'm just going to dot this all over my face and then start blending it in. When you're applying foundation, make sure that you are going all the way into your hairline. Over the ears, especially because your hair will be in a bun, most likely, or something like that that keeps your hair off of your face. And ears do get red, especially when you are exercising and getting all hot. Ears get red, and we don't want these tomato ears next to like a perfectly flawless face. So take that foundation and just tap over the top. And with whatever's left on my sponge, I'm not going in with any excess foundation. I'm just going to blend that down my neck just so that there's no harsh line there. Foundation is on. My next step is concealer. I am using the e.l.f. concealer. It matches, they go together, so they work well together. You don't need a whole lot for like everyday use, but I do use quite a bit for stage makeup, so don't be alarmed. But I'm gonna take this underneath of my eyes to start. On both sides, obviously. And I take it all the way down to my nose to create a triangle of like highlighted goodness. So I'm doing that to start. This stuff dries really fast, so I'm only applying in those two areas before moving on. And then I'm just taking my sponge again and just blending it out. So I'm going all the way down in a triangle and then all the way up. Again, this is creating that really lifted look that we are going for in every step of our makeup. And I'm tapping when I'm applying this. I'm not rubbing because that's just gonna move it all over the place and take the coverage away, and I want it where I put it, obviously, so I am just pushing it into my skin. Okay, with what's left over, I'm actually going to put over the base of my eyelids. So I did this in my eyeshadow video also, with my finger to prime my eyelids for eyeshadow. I am just doing the exact same thing right now. I'm just doing it at an earlier step. So if you were to do your foundation before your eyeshadow, you've already primed, you're ready to go. So don't repeat that step later. Brightness, everything is covered up. I have no more dark circles, which I am blessed with naturally, so those are gone. Now I'm gonna take some more and I'm going to highlight the forehead, a little bit down the bridge of my nose, my chin, anywhere you naturally get dark, but you actually like especially want to do the center of your face every time. But I get dark through here a little bit. And then I'm gonna take a little bit over here and here, just to keep that really bright because later we're gonna be going in and contouring, so. Okay, so now we have foundation and concealer on. My face is looking completely one tone, which is what we want right now. Everything is totally perfected. I have no blemishes, I have no redness showing through. So now I'm going to set that all into place, which is super important. Don't skip this step. You might skip it on a day-to-day basis because your skin might be really dry like mine is, so I don't always powder every day. But when it comes to stage makeup, I always powder my skin because I don't want to go work really hard on my makeup, and then one dance in, I'm sweating and my makeup is wiping off of my face. So I tapped some into the top. Now I'm gonna take my sponge again. See, we've used our sponge for foundation, concealer, and now we're gonna use it for powder. Otherwise you would have like 4 different brushes, and we're using just one sponge. So I'm going to do something called baking, and this is going to make my makeup like glue to my face. It's gonna stick it on there. It's not gonna go anywhere. It might feel really dry, it might feel really cakey, but it is gonna stick. And you can't tell from stage if it looks cakey. So I have my powder on my sponge, and I'm going to tap this underneath of my eye in that same triangle motion. Okay. Oh, I have hair. Oh, where is it? Oh no. Whew. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing to the other areas that I put concealer. I'm gonna do the center of my forehead, down the bridge of my nose, and then under my chin, and anywhere else you might get super sweaty. I am so lucky and I sweat above my upper lip, so I'm powdering there. So we have a lot of powder on the center of our face, and it's very uncomfortable, but we're gonna let that sit for just a minute. I am going to now take a brush, just a big fluffy brush, and start brushing away all that extra powder. And then I'm gonna pick up just a little bit more on my brush and go in the areas that we did not bake. So over here, just on my cheeks, and this is just I'm not going in heavy, it's just a little bit. We've already really set the face with that extra powder that we brushed around, but this is just a nice extra step. And then down the neck as well, make sure you set that, because as you're pulling costumes on over the top of your head, if they do go up there, you don't want to like pull all the foundation off as it comes down. We would not be happy with you if there was makeup all over your costume, so be careful. Foundation is on, and now it is set like glue to my face. It is not gonna go anywhere. So my next step, now that I have a completely like a blank piece of paper on my face and it is totally flat, I'm going to take some bronzer and I'm going to bronze up my face and bring some shape back into it. This is just a face powder from L'Oreal in a darker color than my skin, and that's what I'm gonna use to bronze and kind of contour with. I'm not gonna actually go in and contour because that's a whole nother step, and bronzer will do just fine. So I'm gonna take another brush that's slightly, it's still fluffy and nice and blendable, but it is smaller and more precise so that I can really get into my cheekbone area. So I'm going to take my brush, dip it in. I'm gonna start by patting just because that's something that I prefer to do. And then I'm just going to blend. I'm taking it from up my ear up here and then down, but I'm not going all the way in because I don't want to create a beard. So I'm going to about, that's about as far as I'm taking it. So don't go past the corner of your eye. Otherwise you're gonna start looking like a man. And also don't go down here because we don't want a 5 o'clock shadow. So keep it up here, okay? So I am going heavier on this than I usually would, again, because stage makeup and lights wash out all of the dimension and all of the shadow on your face, which is why we are adding it all back in now. and 10 times stronger than it naturally is. So up there, and then I'm also going to do along my hairline and my temple, just to bring like warmth and shape back up there. Plus I have like a really big forehead, so I like to make it look smaller. And I'm also going down along my jaw because we want to create the bottom of our face back and not have it blend into our neck. Okay, so now that our bronzer is on our face, we are going to go back in with our sponge. This is an added step that I like to do that kind of takes the place of contouring. Again, it's not necessary. If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. I just like the added definition that it gives. I'm going to take my sponge again and my loose powder, and I'm just going to go underneath of where I applied my bronzer, like that. I'm going to go in with a little more. Okay, so now I have a super harsh line that I'm going to let sit there for quite a while actually, just to really soak into my skin, and when I wipe it away it will be nice and sharp and really highlighted through here. Again, taking away that 5 o'clock shadow and kind of giving you a little bit of a contour without actually contouring. So while that sits on my face, I am going to take my blush. Any color you want is fine. Don't do something that's too light though. I prefer to go with something a little bit darker. This is just like a rosy plum blush. So I'm going to take just a brush. You can use the exact same brush that you used for your bronzer and just kind of use the side. But I have a blush brush, so I'm going to use it. And when we are doing blush, again, you don't want to take it too far in. You want to keep it more on this outer area of your cheeks to pull everything upward. So I'm going out here and I'm blending up and into my bronzer. And I am going heavier with my blush than I normally would, just like everything else that I'm doing, but especially blush, because the first thing that comes off your face and fades away is your blush. So go heavier, because by the time you dance, there is a good possibility that it might be gone. So if you go heavy, it will tone down and look just right by the time it's time to go on stage. It's time for us to go into some powder highlighting. So we've already done some base highlighting with our concealer, but it's time to go back over that in a few areas to bring a little bit of light and a little bit of shimmer, but not too much. I used this powder in my last video for highlighting my brow bone and my inner corner a little bit, and I'm going to use it again today to highlight my face. So this is a Wet n Wild bronzer. Don't ever use this for bronzer. It's like white powder. Use it for highlighting. It does have some slight shimmer to it, but nothing crazy, which is why I like it, especially for the stage, because it's not distracting. So I am going to go in with another little brush. If you wanted to, again, just clean off your bronzer brush and go in the same way that I'm gonna go in with this brush, but I already use this one all the time for highlight, so that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm going to take my brush in my bronzer and I'm going to go up above my blush this time. So we put our contour or our bronzer down here, our blush up here, and now right above that, we are creating our highlight spot. So that's on our cheekbones right here. And I'm just going to brush through here. And then I'm also going to put it under my eyes, just because, again, we have been highlighting under there to keep that nice and bright. And like I said, this powder is not overpowering in the shimmer department, so that's why I like to actually just kind of put it all over my face. But, oh, hair. As you can see, the side of my face has a little bit of shine and a little bit of brightness through here compared to this side. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. A little bit on my chin, a little bit on my forehead. Again, the center of the face where we kind of highlighted before. Okay, so now we've got like Neapolitan ice cream on our face from highlight to bronzer, which is fun. So there you go, there's the highlight. If you wanted to go in with a little bit more of like a shimmer type and not so much just like a glow, you can take an actual highlighter. I love this stuff, as you can see. And I'm just gonna take my sponge again, because why not? And I'm going to dip into it light and then go again right on the tops of my cheekbone. Now I'm being a little bit more strategic about where I put this because I don't want a like actual shimmer all over my face, because it would just be too distracting. And then you'd just look super duper sweaty, and we don't want to look sweaty. So I'm just putting it right where I want it, right on the tip or the highest point of my cheekbone. And then I'm gonna put a little bit down the center of my nose. Bake under here has been sitting for a little while, so I'm gonna take my big brush that I used before and just blend it away. We don't have any harsh lines, we don't have any redness where we don't want it, and we have depth and dimension to our face. So just remember, this is not an everyday look, so go harder than usual with your makeup because you want that definition. I'm just gonna go in and define those very quickly. Like I said, we don't need Instagram brows, we just want some definition back in them. Because as you can see, they've gotten covered in foundation and powder and they look like a powdery mess. So I'm just going to brush through them. What is that? Brows are now on. Yes, they look scary right now because I don't have any makeup on my eyes, so it's like crazy. But once you go and you put all that darkness on the outer corner of your eye, it all balances out, trust me. Last step, really quick, just to finish this off, and you will have learned everything that you need to know how to do for stage makeup from your face to your eyes. And now we're gonna go over lips really quick, which is just super simple. I'm not even gonna teach you anything just because like putting on a lipstick is putting on a lipstick. But I'm gonna put it on just because it completes your look. So this is going to totally depend on what your teacher says she wants. So that could be a bright red, bold lip, or it could be something more like a rosy pink, which is more the typical. It goes well with everything. So that is the usual, that's what I'm gonna do today. So I'm just gonna do that real quick, just throw some lips on. I did already moisturize my lips at the beginning of the video, so they're good to go. A few bits of advice that I have when it comes to lips and stage makeup is to avoid using a gloss, like at all costs. Because obviously if your hair is not in a nice tight ballet bun and you have it in like a half up, half down, or a ponytail or pigtails or something like that, The second you go to whip your head around or turn, you are going to end up with hair stuck to your face and no way to fix it, because obviously your hands are doing something completely different. So I do not recommend gloss whatsoever, so stick with a lipstick or a liquid lip or something along those lines. The other thing that I would say is go with something a little bit darker than you think that you might need, because again, those stage lights are going to completely wash out your lips and you don't want to look like you don't have a mouth on stage. So stick with something a little bit darker than you think you might want. Don't ever go for something nude. Chapstick is not enough. So go for a lipstick. There's lots of different good stuff to choose from at the drugstore, so you don't need to spend a lot of money on lips at all. So that is my advice. There you go on how to do a full face of face makeup, from primer to powder to highlight, everything in between. So my last step would be, which I definitely think is necessary, is a quick spray of some setting spray. They have lots of these to choose from again, so just choose what you feel you need. Something that's obviously going to make it last the longest is recommended. So just all over your face, and that would be your last step. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and that's it. So maybe next week we will do something a little bit more fun now that we've knocked out the basics and you now know everything that you need to look flawless on stage. So I will see you all in the next video sometime next week. Bye.